you definitely had to have it for 6-bed HMOs, but this one didn't. So, there are HMOs out there with no EICRs. How do we combat that? We have a certificates register reviewed each week. So 25 days before any certificate is due, we get notified. Our VA orders the certificate, and our virtual assistant orders that certificate, and then it gets done, and it's reviewed each week. So there's about 10 data sheets that we have that come to me and my management team each week. That is one of them. So the virtual assistant prepares that report, sends it to us to review. We scan down it and make sure that everything's in hand. So it's 25 days away from expiring. Has it been ordered yet? Okay, no, maybe not. So let's see if it's been ordered next week. So it's just a process we have to go through to make sure that our certificates don't expire. We don't forget one. So what is your system for making sure that happens? Just have a think about that. Energy performance certificate, you need one of those. The implication of not having one is you can't serve a Section 21. You can do it retrospectively. And local authorities. So Section 21 is the legal procedure and paperwork that you need to issue to your tenants to ask them to leave. You can't do it within a fixed term, 6 or 12 months typically, but you can do it after fixed term, and you give 2 months notice, and you have to have done a fair few things to be able to serve that. Issuing a gas certificate, for example, and an EPC is one of those things. So if you don't do that, you can't issue a Section 21, or it'll get kicked out if it goes to court, ultimately. And the councils can impose fines. I've never seen it happen, is the truth, with energy performance certificates, but you can impose fines. You may need a licence. This talk won't go into HMO regulations particularly. It's a bigger subject. This was really talking about just sort of standard sort of family-let houses. So alarms, you need smoke alarms in every story of the accommodation. So when you buy your first buy-to-let, how do you know that? So let's assume you do know that. How do you check that you've put them in on each floor? So we've got an onboarding checklist to make sure that when we take a property on, we can see two smoke alarms and a CO alarm near the boiler. If something goes wrong, there's a fine for getting that wrong. If something were to happen, if the worst were to happen, you're not going to get a fine instantly because you don't have one. But if something were to happen and you didn't, that's what would result. And you need to test it on the first day of the tenancy. That's pretty rigid legislation. You can't even test it before. You've got to test it on the day of the tenancy. So we do the inspection inventory on the same day as the check-in, and we record on that inventory that we have tested the alarm, just to make sure we cover that. So recording things is kind of quite an important kind of thing, and kind of topic throughout really. You need to demonstrate your furniture is fire safe and your water supply is safe as well. If you are using a letting agent, I guess you need to check them out as well. So have they got client money protection? Are they a member of a property redress scheme? Have they got transparent fees, and have you signed terms of business? Those things will kind of cover you. So not every agent in the country will have client money protection, for example, but make sure that yours does. So you've got your property ready, it's got the certificates, it's got the gas, the smoke alarms, etc. Then you want to take your photos. So there must be good photos, and we dress them to make sure that they look the best they can, write a description and put them on the portals. The way we check all that stuff is done, we've got a property onboarding checklist, so we make sure the landlord's given us their ID, all the certificates, the pictures, and they sign terms of business. So we won't do much, the truth, without signed terms of business. So we need to make sure that checklist is all completed. That's how we take on a property. Take inquiries. So as a self-managing landlord, that can be quite a bit of work. So ask pre-qualification questions. When do you want to move? Are you happy with the rent? Do you know the location? Because we get that. You book viewings and they don't turn up because it wasn't the right location for them. Confirm beforehand to reduce no-show. So this is a big problem for us because every time we go out, it costs money, and so we don't want to waste our time. So we put a system in place that texts people the day before, and then to give a positive response for us to turn up, because our no-shows were kind of getting quite costly. So you might want to do something. You don't want to drive half an hour for viewing, it don't show up. Present your property the best. So I think the most important thing about a viewing is the rapport building. You need to get to know them, they need to get to know you, and you create a rapport. Particularly if you're self-managing, you need to know that you can work with this person over the next 6 months, 12 months, 2 years, 5 years, whatever. You haven't got to like them, but you've got to see yourself working with them. What's your gut feel? So ask those 2 questions. What's the reason for your move? Got kicked out? That's maybe not the right answer. And what are you looking for to help sell your property to them? And you might be able to make adjustments if they ask something that you don't immediately have. An example of this, this is going wrong. So an out-of-town landlord had a HMO, 1 room was full. He was managing inquiries from abroad. He was asking his brother to do the viewings. It wasn't working, so he had empty rooms. So we just came in and we were able to fill his room quickly. It was a decent house, it just wasn't being marketed very well, and the viewings weren't being done terribly efficiently. So we were able to respond more quickly because we're on hand, and that's kind of what we do regularly.